Revelations 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and eat with him, and he with me." Hi, this is Bobby, the pastor of Lighthouse Church and Online Ministry. Today I want to do kind of a different video for you all. There are times where you have something planned, but it just doesn't feel right. This could be a sermon, this could be a message, but you just feel like there's something that you need to do rather than what you had planned. And usually that is God hitting you with a spiritual 4x4, which he does to me quite a bit, telling you that it's not your plans, but it's his own. And so today I want to kind of do a different video and just talk about really a couple years of my life where I really didn't have the best relationship with God like I should. Best relationship with Jesus like I should. It seemed like Jesus was outside knocking on the door and I was too busy watching TV or too busy playing video games to answer. This was well along in my life of being a pastor, but I felt adrift. Felt like, I was out in the middle of an ocean, just on a piece of debris from a ship, just wandering out in the water. My faith in God wasn't growing like it should have been. I wasn't praying like I should have. I wasn't in the Word like I should have. The truth is I was wading in water. I felt, like I said, I felt adrift, and I just wasn't as close to God like I should have been. Which is funny because right before this time, I thought my relationship with God was as high as it ever could have been, when the truth was it wasn't. So let me start from the beginning. I loved God and gave my life to God when I was young, when I was in high school. I gave my life to God, said that I would follow God with all my heart, soul, and mind, and I accepted the calling of being a pastor. After high school, I went to college where I studied to become a pastor, and I felt the calling to get into street ministry. So after college, I went to Indianapolis, got part of this small little church plant, and was there for about 5 years. Like I said, while I was there, I felt like I was on fire for the Lord in a way that I never felt before. I felt like I was closer to God, and I felt like, nothing could separate me from God. The truth is I slowly began to make my ministry my idol. The ministry was more important to me than God was, which is a very common thing to happen amongst pastors, amongst those who work full time in ministry. And and at one point I did it for the while I was doing ministry, it seemed that like I cared more about being accepted as a strong pastor than I was caring about my relationship with God. And so, really, at this point, I started setting adrift, like I said. And yes, I will be using a lot of these drift illustrations throughout the video, so I apologize. But I started feeling adrift from God until to the point of the end of 2019. For a lot of people, this was a life-changing event in their life. And for me, it was as well, but for a different reason. The end of 2019, me and the church I was a part of split ways, and I moved back to Colorado to help take care of my parents during why the beginning of COVID-19 started happening. And so I came here back to Colorado to help and to take care of my parents. And while I was here, I just kept on feeling more and more adrift from God. I blamed God for not being in full-time ministry and take jobs that I really didn't care for. And I didn't, at this time, I didn't go to church all the time. I didn't have the community of church like I should have. And as I said, I didn't have the community of God like I should have. And so I was adrift. And it just kept on getting worse and worse. Like I said, I felt like God was knocking at the door, or Jesus was knocking at the door, and I just couldn't bother to open the door for him. In Revelations 3:15 through 16, it says, I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot. So, because you are lukewarm, and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. That verse is basically saying that because this church, in Revelations, because their actions was neither hot nor cold, Jesus was going to spew them out, spit them out, because they were lukewarm. They didn't eat, they weren't on fire for God, but they also didn't hate God. They didn't go out and do the things they needed to do for Jesus. And during this time, that's where I was at. I was definitely lukewarm. I was definitely in a place where I shouldn't have been. And I was just there drifting. My behavior started changing because my focus was more on making money, taking care of my parents, which the taking care of my parents isn't a horrible thing, but I was really not where I was supposed to be mentally, physically, or spiritually. And as I said, I just felt adrift. And I felt this way for about 3 years. Like I said, I really stopped going to church. You know, I barely read my Bible, and I felt lost. And it was at this point that I really, like I said before, I really started realizing that my relationship with God wasn't as good as I thought it was. It wasn't as authentic as I thought it was. Because when I was doing street ministry, I cared more about the glitz and glamour than I did about serving God in an authentic way. And that not only harmed my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus Christ, but it could have harmed those I was ministering to as well. And so, as I was in this kind of drift phase where I was neither hot nor cold, where I was just drifting, I really went through some dark times during that time. You know, as I said, um, I was, my body, my mind started changing. Um, I wasn't the person who I wanted to be, and my relationship with God wasn't there. You know, on another side note, I kept on trying to get into ministry opportunities, but you know, because of COVID, most churches was closed down, and so I just I couldn't get back into ministry, so I worked at these jobs that I would call soul crushers because it just crushed my soul. James 1, starting in verse 6. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for the one who doubts, is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by wind. That was me. I was being tossed by the wind. I was lukewarm. I heard Jesus at the door, but I was so cast out. I was so far away from God. I couldn't hear his voice. My relationship with him was so adrift that it it, it truly hurt my soul. You know, at this time I always believed there was a God. I just wasn't where I was supposed to be. I wasn't where I was called to be. And I think back during that time, and I truly wonder, you know, if I was in the right mindset, the things I could have done for God. But I was selfish and adrift and ignored the people God was putting in my life to love on and to minister to. And so how did I get away from that? Well, the truth is at some point God just told me to stop being stupid. I I I I slowly started reading my Bible more, and as I started to do that, I realized that I became more self aware and really realized that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I realized that during this time, God was calling for me. I go back to our illustration of being. I was wading out in the water, and I didn't realize that God was right behind me in a little boat with a life uh, a donut to save me. I was too focused on myself, too focused on trying to get myself to safety, that I didn't realize God was there the entire time. And so I slowly started going back and just truly trying to follow God in an authentic way. And I think for us, no matter where you're at, no matter if you are super high on your relationship with God or super low, like I was, no matter if you feel like you are on the boat with God at this moment, or if you're with if you were with me just hanging out on a piece of wood adrift in an ocean, God is still there. And we need to work on our relationship. We need to listen to his call and go back to his church and work on our authentic relationship with him, an authentic faith with him. Being adrift is not good, because at some point Jesus will spit us out, because we are neither hot nor cold. And brothers and sisters, I don't want any of us to be spit out, because that doesn't sound good. So I just want to encourage you, if you feel adrift right now, you can reach out to us at Lighthouse Church Ministries. I'm sorry, lighthousechurchco.org. That's our website. You can reach out to us on our Facebook or YouTube page and just let us know what's going on. Or, reach out to those you know who are walking alongside you. Reach out to your pastor at your home church. And if you don't have a home church, look for a home church, because none of us should be adrift. And more importantly, cry out to God, because God is there. Jesus is there, knocking at the door. We just need to let him in. Thank you.